Sir, when the Honourable House rose for lunch, I was mentioning with regard to the serious challenges which were faced in the state of Gujarat and how the state administration and the entire machinery geared itself up to face those challenges. I was also mentioning that pursuant to the unanimous resolution of this Honourable House on 6th of May 2002, there are several steps which the state government and the central government had taken. I had mentioned that there was a time where, on account of the unfortunate developments in the state, as high a figure as 135,000 people were in the relief camps. It was an enormous challenge. Some had lost their houses, some had been injured, some had lost their near and dear ones, and the entire arrangement of rehabilitation had to be made even outside the relief camps. As of today, this figure of 135,000, only about 12,000 people are left as far as the relief camps are concerned. To almost all identified cases where deaths took place, compensations have been paid, injury compensations have been paid. A question is being raised, kahan diye gaye? I can give you the actual figures. That amongst the identified dead bodies, 771 cases death compensation, 2012 cases injury compensation, cash doles to the victims, 41,694, household compensations for household articles, 32,000. Those who lost their earning assets, 13,300, these are the ones which have actually been already paid. Shops, showrooms, insurance claims. Every institution and instrumentality of the government has been put into action to make sure that the rehabilitation takes place. Agencies like the Life Insurance Corporation, the GICs agencies, the banks were all told to expeditiously deal with all the claims. And I have the list of all the figures, how each of these agencies has in the last 3-4 months been acting in order to rehabilitate people. Houses are being rebuilt, people are being sent back to their houses, but some people,
may I have your permission?
Sir,
Leader of the opposition wants to.
sorry,
I think the Honourable Minister is quoting these.
member.
Sorry, the Honourable Member is quoting these figures. I think when he was a minister, he had quoted similar figures. I draw his attention to the latest issue of Business India, where all these claims about payments of compensation, how I think inadequate is the compensation being paid. Large number of people who have no insurance claims, small hoteliers, small restaurant owners. I think he should not exaggerate, I think, in the manner in which he is trying to do.
I regret that the leader of opposition should base his entire information, as far as his own information is concerned, on merely a media report. In fact, if you don't have any other sources of information, then I am providing you some. You mentioned that cases where insurances are there. There are, the GIC insurance companies were told there are 5,655 claims. In the last 3 months, 2,360 settled and paid already. LIC claims, 72 people had insurance, 66 paid already. So there I can give you a series of figures in each one of them. NGOs were involved in the process of identifying the widows and the orphans who needed a rehabilitation. SEVA was involved in it. And each one of them identified what is the kind of pension which is to be paid to them. Fixed and is being paid. In cases where there is a problem with regard to identification, there are various channels. Senior secretaries of the government have been identified with each and every district in the state in order to identify as to and decide wherever some disputes with regard to identification or other such disputes as such have arisen. Sir, I mention this because a campaign was carried out with regard to what are the conditions in the relief camps. Water, sanitation, medical, several arrangements were made. In fact, the leader of the opposition could verify, because Congress party is in power in the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. The municipal corporation also had a responsibility to discharge with regard to water and sanitation. Various agencies of the state were involved in the whole process. So when I mentioned the figure that only about 12,000 people are left in the relief camps, people are going home. Some news items appear in one or two areas. Problems did arise when people went home, but those problems were tackled by the determination of the district administration. A large number of people from the villages were organized, as I had already mentioned, to in fact go and bring them back in order to build a sense of confidence. There was a significant problem in the city of Ahmedabad where the tension had continued for an unduly long period of time, and as of today, these 12,000 odd people are only in the city of Ahmedabad. In the rest of the state, everybody else has gone home, and all those relief camps are no longer operative. At least 8 to 10 cases were filed in the Gujarat High Court. What are the conditions in the relief camp? Is any relief camp being forcibly closed? Courts have already perused the matters, pronounced upon them, and given some favorable judgments with regard to the officers of the state government who were involved in the matter of assisting the relief camps. Most of the relief camps are run by the non-government organization. The state takes upon itself the responsibility of ration, food, medicines, etc. And each one of them has been scrutinized as far as the courts are concerned. Now, what are the other symptoms in the state? You've had panchayat elections in the state during this period. 75% plus polling percentage in the panchayat elections. You had examinations, and those who did not want the examinations to go through peacefully, there were calls given by some people to the students to boycott examinations. The government no longer, the government.
बोल दे दीजिए, इनको बोलने
जली जली बिल्डिंग सब खड़ी हुई है, आप कह रहे सब बन गया। 45 रुपए 100 रुपए चेक दिए गए लोगों को।
आपका नंबर आएगा तब बोलिए।
वो चेक लेके घूम रहे हैं, फोटो स्टेट करा के गया।
बोलने दीजिए।
और इतनी अच्छी पिक्चर खींच रहे हैं जैसे वहाँ कोई
समय कम है, बहुत लोगों को बोलना है, आप इंटरप्ट मत करिए।
हम आपको बताना चाह रहे हैं ये सारे
आपका जब नंबर आएगा तब बोलिए।
नहीं मानना चाह रहे।
I am very grateful to the honorable member from the Congress benches who mentioned that in 2 districts no panchayat elections have been held. He is right that in the 2 districts where there were court injunctions and court cases pending, it was not held. Otherwise, in the state, panchayat elections with 75% voting have been held. Examination despite boycott calls. How do you get 98% attendance? Some students from the relief camps complained that they appeared, but they were not in a position to actually, in a state of mind to prepare for the examinations, even though they went and appeared. The state government told the court that we will, for these students in the relief camp, have one more opportunity for the examinations. Even those have been held by the state government. Political activity. I have read today the statement of the Congress party leaders there. They are going to hold rallies in every district of the state. They have a full right to do so. But if you can hold rallies in every district of the state, the situation in the state is normal for political activity. Your leader has gone and addressed rallies in the state even when there was curfew in a part of Ahmedabad town. Your party has organized dharnas in Ahmedabad city where half the city was under curfew. So rallies can be held, political programs can be held, dharnas can be held, but somehow there is a phobia that let us shy away as far as the election is concerned, as far as the state is concerned. Sir, during Muharram, 2,000 processions were taken event-free. There was a serious doubt being expressed, particularly members of the minority community had to take those processions. 2,000 processions during Muharram. The Jagannath Rath Yatra, the Ram Navami processions. Doubts were being raised. Everything passed on peacefully. But somehow an impression is to be created, there is no normalcy, because somebody wants that as far as elections in the state are concerned, should not be held. Sir, if there is any sense of abnormality, it is only being felt by the party which fears the elections. An issue has been raised by the Honorable Shri Pranab Mukherjee today that this is a case where Article 356 should be used. I need not remind him, he is a very senior and a very eminent member. Article 356 is used when there is a breakdown of the constitutional machinery, when the governance of a state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. Is it the suggestion of the Congress party that some months ago there was indeed tension in the state? All out efforts have gone in to bring the situation to normal. Now normalcy has come in. Last 3 months have been normal or near normal. And this normal situation should go down as being interpreted by the government as a breakdown of the constitutional machinery. In a state where trading activity is normal, business is normal, educational institutions are normal, political activity has started. Even the victims of the riots, the unfortunate victims in large numbers, over 90% have gone back home. Once this situation has been achieved, let me say with a sense of deep regret, it would be, let alone imposition, even to suggest that this should be construed as breakdown of constitutional machinery would be something which any student of constitutional law would even shudder to suggest. The normalcy has returned, conditions of breakdown do not exist, but this should be treated as a 356 situation. No such situation. The Justice Sarkaria Commission, when they made their recommendations, law and order is not a breakdown of constitutional machinery. These are repeated recommendations which have been made in the Sarkaria Commission recommendation on center-state relations. Merely because incidents have taken place in a state and the machinery of the state strives to bring normalcy, to say that this is a breakdown of constitutional machinery. When we last discussed this issue, prior to 6th of May, issues were raised. What about all these criminal cases? The Honorable Leader of Opposition was disputing some of those figures. Well, I have not seen anybody who can effectively dispute those figures. The suggestions have been made. I stand by every figure I had said in the course of that debate. 5 major cases had taken place. 1 Godhra and 4 subsequent to Godhra, where several innocent people died. In each of those cases, despite the pressure on the law and order machinery, within the stipulated days of 90 days, completed or incomplete charge sheets were filed to make sure that people don't get released on bails.
Has mentioned all those facts and commented on them. I hope the honourable member has looked at those findings of the commission.
Sir,
because they
quality of the
yes, and they comment very adversely on what you are saying.
Yes.
Maybe the honourable commission is not right. Maybe you'd like to criticize the commission. We don't mind that, but at least comment on it.
I am, sir, constrained to say that even in the debate on the last occasion prior to the 6th of May, I had mentioned, when the Honourable Member Mr. Arjun Singh at that stage had suggested that the Human Rights Commission had suggested that these cases be referred to the CBI. And the reason that I had given, and I stand by that reason, that for anybody to suggest, and Mr. Sibal is a very eminent lawyer who knows this subject more than any one of us, on the 50th or 60th day after the arrests have been made, you change the investigative agency, all the leads which the present investigators have made, they have sent people all around the country. The documentation was mostly and almost entirely in Gujarati. You change it, the possibility of the CBI being able to complete investigation in the balance 20-30 days and being able to file charge sheets was almost negligible. And therefore I had suggested, and I stand by what I had said, it was imperative for the state government to continue the investigation under the agency. And they showed their bona fides not only by arresting people, by expeditiously filing charge sheets which under 90 days are normally very difficult, particularly when these pressures are there. And in each of the 5 major cases, those charge sheets have been filed by the investigative agencies. A question is, sir, being repeatedly raised. Why do you now need elections? There has been tension. There is some element of social tension in the minds of people which survive. The entire campaign has been against the state government and against the chief minister, that your handling of the situation is absolutely not free from doubt. Strong criticism has been made, and in every debate, demands have been made that you must now submit your resignation on moral grounds. Now the chief minister stands up and says, the state government says, this is what we have done. And in a democracy, we are prepared to go back to the people and let the people decide whether we must continue or not continue. He accepts your challenge. When you say that your handling is absolutely without competence, it is not fair, all kinds of allegations have been made. A whole campaign against the state has been carried out at one stage. The chief minister in his statement has very clearly said it is his prerogative, it's the prerogative of his council of ministers. This is not the first time that it has happened, that 4 or 5 months before it was actually to be done, if it could have been done in November for the purposes of a February election, he does it in the month of July, that I am prepared now that normalcy has returned, I prepone the dissolution of the assembly and I am prepared to go back to the people, because in a democracy, ultimately, it is the people who are the final arbiters. It is the people who will decide that in view of these unfortunate incidents, who should govern the state in future or otherwise. And once he does this, the whole campaign is, somehow we must create a situation that the authority to the people to decide as the sovereign as to who should be the government of the state, who should be the chief minister of the state, should for an indefinite period be denied to the people. Sir, this is absolutely unprecedented in a parliamentary democracy with a federal structure where elections are a constitutional and a democratic imperative. Elections are not a matter of any expediency. We've had precedents. What happened in Assam? In the state of Assam, there was tension. My learned friend Mr. Shori has been a great student of that state. You had a minuscule voting percentage. Could we derail Indian democracy and say Assam is not entitled to election merely because 14% people are coming to vote? You had elections twice over in Punjab in the 80s and the early 90s under the shadow of the gun, where candidates were being killed. There was terrorism in the state. It was an abnormal situation, and the strength of India's democracy is that it was that democracy which produced a solution in terms of popularly elected governments. You had democracy producing solutions in the state of Punjab. 1984, the reminder is always embarrassing to my learned friends in the Congress benches. You had 3,000 people being massacred in Delhi in one day, and you had polling within 45 days. I won't go into the detail of the kind of campaign that you people carried on. You started your campaign with a kind of an overtone which was against the victims of that unfortunate incident. A past law and order problem, a past tension in the state should be a ground for somehow derailing democracy and derailing elections. In Kashmir, what is the entire national endeavor today? We must show to the whole world that despite all these insurgencies, cross-border terrorism, infiltration, the shadow of gun, it is our democracy which is the best answer to Pakistan's tactics as far as Kashmir is concerned. We are today trying in the state of Kashmir to have a free and fair election, so that ultimately elections are going to be an Indian response to the whole world. How proudly we said that in the Panchayat elections in Kashmir and the local bodies elections in Kashmir, there was over 70% voting, and nobody had questioned the fairness of the Panchayat elections in Kashmir. It was just held 1.5 to 2 years ago. Is law and order a settled law and order problem, that now that people have returned home, life is normal? Do we want to set these precedents? And if these precedents are set, whoever has a political interest in a given state, it may be the sitting chief minister. In another state, it may be somebody desiring to occupy that seat. Whoever has an interest in derailing the election process and continuing indefinitely is then going to come up and say, well, there was a law and order problem 4 months ago, there was a serious problem 4 months ago, and now that situation has returned to normal. This should be used as a ground to continue the government or even a caretaker government and not have elections. Sir, this has never been the case. And this argument of political expediency should never be permitted. Sir, the Honorable Member Shri Pranab Mukherjee did make a reference to the constitutional requirement of elections. This is an issue which is being publicly debated. Sir, we have a provision in the Indian Constitution which is absolutely separate, which is Article 356. I have seen examples being mentioned about deferment of elections in Punjab or in Kashmir. They have all been cases of Article 356, or in the case of Kashmir, Section 92 of the Kashmir Constitution, where either President's rule or Governor's rules has been imposed. The Assembly is dissolved, and the dissolved Assembly for 6 months, extendable by another 6 months and so on. Obviously, during the dissolution of the Assembly, an extraordinary situation under the Constitution takes over. The federal structure is somewhat eclipsed. The legislative power of the state comes to the center. The central legislature legislates on behalf of the state. The central government governs the state because there is no governance of the state possible. And the condition precedent is breakdown of constitutional machinery. We are not going to abandon India's federalism except when you reach an extreme stage of breakdown of constitutional machinery. Reference was made to Article 324. Let me remind the honorable member that Article 324 is only the power of the Election Commission for superintendence of elections.
This is just to remind you that you have 50 minutes, you have taken 30 minutes, I have no problem.
I'll conclude in the next.
I have no problem, you have 4 more speakers. Problem is...
So I'll just, thank you very much, sir. I'll just complete in the next 3-4 minutes. Under Article 324, the Election Commission has the power to issue directives. The Election Commission has the power to decide the dates of election. These are all powers under Article 324. But Article 324 is never used in derogation of, in contravention of the existing law. It can only be used where there is an unoccupied space, that is where there is no legislation. And here, let alone a legislation, Article 174 conclusively occupies the legislative space. What is the spirit and rationale behind Article 174? 174 says 3 things. Firstly, the governor has a power to prorogue an assembly. The governor has a power to dissolve an assembly. And thirdly, the same article which talks in terms of proroguing and in talks in terms of dissolution of the assembly also says how assembly is to be called, and then mandates that between 2 sessions of the assembly, 6 months should not elapse. The same article which speaks of proroguing, the same article which speaks of dissolution, then mandates that in between 2 sessions, 6 months should not elapse. There is a democratic and a constitutional rationale behind it. Unless there is a breakdown of the constitutional machinery where Article 356 will govern the field. In other situations, accountability, and yes, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, you were right. I borrow your argument, accountability is through the legislature. Chief ministers are accountable, council of ministers is accountable through the legislature. Lawmaking is done in the legislature. The 6-month situation, which now this new argument which is being invented, must relate only to proroguing and not to dissolution, which in simpler words you said, must relate only to the same assembly and not to the next assembly. The words same assembly were never put in Article 174 by the Constituent Assembly. What the Constituent Assembly very clearly and categorically said was, governors can prorogue, governors can dissolve, but between 2 sessions, not more than 6 months. Because if more than 6 months elapse, and if I take your argument that it goes on indefinitely, then why Mr. Modi, any other chief minister, a strange situation will develop. Under 356, legislative power belongs to the central parliament. Under 174, nobody has the legislative power indefinitely. The state does not have a legislature. Therefore, the rationale is, don't allow more than 6 months to lapse. Once dissolution takes place, hold elections immediately, because otherwise nobody has a legislative power. And you cannot have a caretaker chief minister who should go on indefinitely. That doesn't augur well for democracy. And that is why the rationale is not because you must not have a caretaker chief minister going on indefinitely. So have 356 even though there is no constitutional breakdown. The answer is, therefore have elections immediately. Don't allow more than 6 months to elapse. So your entire argument when you say that you must not have unaccountable chief ministers, I agree with your argument, and that is the reason in a situation where there is no breakdown of constitutional machinery, you cannot have unaccountable chief ministers, and that is why 174 has to be given a meaning which its plain reading gives, that you must hold elections in such a manner that 6 months between two sessions of the assembly are not allowed to lapse. This has never happened in India in the last 50 years, and I regret to say this should not be allowed to happen, because if this does happen, it will be an interpretation to Article 174 which was not given. It will be a bad precedent. The Election Commission has a power to hold elections. It has the power to fix the dates, but the power is circumscribed by the requirements of Article 174. And I think the situation in the state has come where people must be allowed to be the eventual arbiters and decide who for the next 5 years must govern the state. The fear of one political group or the other should not be allowed to come in way of trying to derail the electoral or the democratic process. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.